My husband slept with my sister while I was in labor, now she's pregnant and begging me for forgiveness. My sister Susan, she's a year older than me at 32, well, we've never really been close. Honestly, our relationship's always been rocky, so let me just get that out there up front. I'm fully aware my view might be a little colored because of all that history. Since we were kids, she's always had this habit of copying whatever I did, or worse, trying to one-up me. Like, if I joined a club or picked up a new hobby at school, you could bet money she'd jump into the same thing and try to outshine me. Debate team? Chess club? You name it, if I was doing it, she had to do it better. Now, there was this one sport I really loved. I started young, practically grew up with it, and as the years went by, I poured a lot of time and effort into getting good. I'm not trying to brag, but I did get really good. I started winning awards and getting recognized for it. Then, right around the time I turned 14, Susan decided she wanted to compete in the same sport too. Out of the blue. And surprisingly, our parents said okay. But she didn't have the same drive. She barely practiced and would spend more time mocking me than actually working on her own skills. Sometimes she'd crack jokes during my practice sessions or act like I wasn't all that good. But come competition day, it was pretty clear to everyone that she just wasn't on the same level as the rest of us. Still, she thought she deserved to win something big. Spoiler, she didn't. I ended up taking home the top prize that day, and while my parents were thrilled, Susan totally lost it. She threw a full-blown tantrum in front of everyone, sobbing, screaming, the whole 9 yards. It was embarrassing, and my parents had to hurry her out of the room. Later on, when we were back home, they sat her down and tried to explain that everyone has different talents, and she didn't need to compete with me all the time. They told her they were proud of her no matter what, even if she didn't win anything. But instead of listening, Susan turned on me, started yelling right in front of them and then smashed my award in a fit of anger. That one really cut deep. I had worked my tail off for that award. Unlike her, I didn't just show up, I put in the effort, day after day. My parents scolded her, but she didn't seem to care. They even made her see a therapist, though apparently she refused to talk about the jealousy or resentment she had toward me. As we got older, things didn't improve. Mornings before school were awful. She'd pick on my clothes, make fun of my hair, and say stuff like how embarrassed she was to be seen with me. For context, I've always been tall and slender with long red hair, and I liked wearing baggy clothes, totally different from her style of short skirts and crop tops. And while she tried to knock my confidence, I knew I wasn't unattractive. Even back then, I got plenty of attention from guys. Whenever our mom caught her being cruel, she'd call her out. So Susan figured out how to keep it going at school, where no adults were around. That's when she'd really turn up the heat, bragging about how her friends were way cooler than mine. And sure, she hung out with the popular kids, while I stuck with a small circle of people I actually liked. I'm more of an introvert, definitely not the loud type like she was. She and her friends would stand in the hallways judging everyone, and if I walked by, she'd loudly say I wasn't her real sister, that I must have been adopted or something. By the time I was 15, I decided to start my own blog using WordPress. I barely knew how to use it, but I loved to write and wanted a space to share my thoughts. Eventually, I started to build an audience, hit 2,000 subscribers at one point. That's when a few local businesses started asking me to promote their products on my blog. At first, they'd just send me stuff, but as my following grew, I started making actual money. At the beginning, my parents had no idea what I was up to. When they found out, they were both surprised and impressed that I was earning from something I genuinely enjoyed. My dad helped me open a bank account in my name, with him listed as co-owner until I turned 18, so I could start saving for college. When Susan found out about it, her first reaction wasn't congratulations. Nope, she told me I had to share the money with her because it wasn't fair that I was earning and she wasn't. I told her straight up, no way. She was more than welcome to try it for herself. She ran to our parents hoping they'd take her side, but they stood firm and said no. So, what did she do? She started her own blog. From the beginning, she acted like it was no big deal, mocked the whole thing, actually saying writing was easy and she was a much better writer than me anyway. But when she didn't get many views or any real traction, she got frustrated fast. She even asked me how I managed to get brand deals. Then she tried to pressure me into featuring her articles on my blog. Her argument? We're sisters, we should share everything. I refused, partly because she'd talked trash about my writing, and partly because, truthfully, I didn't like hers. A few months went by with no progress on her end, and eventually she gave up. Then came the college chapter. Our mom had gone to an Ivy League school, and both of us had dreams of following in her footsteps. Susan applied to that school and another, even more prestigious Ivy, but ended up getting rejected by both. She had to settle for a university in our hometown, which was still a decent school, just not Ivy League. When it was my turn to apply, she kept telling me not to waste my time, that if she didn't get in, there was no way I would. I reminded her that my grades were strong, and that's what mattered, but she shot back saying my personality wasn't Ivy League material. I didn't let that stop me. I went ahead and applied anyway, and I actually got in. I was nervous about telling her, though, because I knew it'd be a whole thing. So, my parents broke the news to her gently one weekend when she came over for dinner. And just like we feared, she flipped out. First, she refused to believe it was true. Then, when I showed her the acceptance letter, she accused me of faking it, said there was no way I got in if she didn't, because she was supposedly the smarter one. By that point, my parents and I were completely over it. I never viewed her as competition, but she always treated me like I was the enemy. My dad tried reasoning with her, saying she could have at least congratulated me. My mom suggested therapy again, but Susan just got furious. She stood there yelling at them, screaming about how she was their firstborn and they were always against her. She stormed out of the house that night, right in the middle of dinner, shouting that she was never the problem and had never even wanted a sibling. After that blow-up, I decided it was time to really back off. We were adults now, and honestly, that kind of bitterness and jealousy should have been left behind in childhood. College ended up being a big turning point for me. I made new friends and started spending time with people who actually made me feel good. Being away from Susan gave me space to focus on who I was, without constantly being compared or pulled into some weird sibling rivalry. I explored things I was genuinely interested in, not because I wanted to prove anything to her, but because they mattered to me. Over those college years, I found passions and hobbies that had nothing to do with my sister. And for the first time, I really felt free to just be myself. I hoped that maybe, with time, she'd grow into her own person too and we could finally have a more normal relationship. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. When academic competition was no longer on the table, Susan shifted her attention to our personal lives. She wasn't exactly subtle about it either. She'd throw in snide remarks whenever I got a boyfriend before she did, like it was some kind of race. When Finn and I decided to move in together, she'd make sarcastic comments or roll her eyes like it was a joke. Eventually, she met a guy named Tom who really seemed like a good fit for her, and things calmed down a bit. I had a strong feeling she was determined to get married first and be the first to have kids, like that somehow meant she won. But I wasn't in any rush, so it didn't really bother me. Then, that Christmas, she announced she was getting married in 2023. And genuinely, I was happy for her. I gave her and her fiancé a warm congratulations, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she actually hugged me. I really thought maybe we had turned a corner, maybe we were finally going to have the kind of relationship normal sisters do. But a few months later, life threw us a curveball. Finn's younger brother, he was just 24, got diagnosed with a very aggressive illness. When we got the call, we didn't think twice. We packed up and went straight to be with him and the family. Finn was incredibly close to his brother, and I could see how hard he was taking the news. They'd lost their dad when they were young, so this kind of grief wasn't unfamiliar to them. While we were there, one night out of the blue, Finn proposed. I was completely surprised. We'd talked about getting married someday, but I didn't expect it to happen then. He told me he wanted his brother to be there when we got married. He didn't know how much time he had left, and he didn't want to wait. He said he loved me and didn't see any point in delaying what we both already knew. We wanted to spend our lives together. I totally understood where he was coming from. I loved him, too, and if us getting married would bring some light to his brother's life, then of course I said yes. We both agreed that a big, fancy wedding wasn't our style anyway. We wanted something small, personal, and full of love. When we told the family, they were overjoyed, especially Finn's brother. He cried when we told him and hugged us like he never wanted to let go. But even with all that joy, a little voice in my head kept reminding me Susan's wedding was still coming up. I didn't want her to feel like I was trying to upstage her or compete. I really thought we were past that. So before I even told my parents, I decided to call her first and have an honest talk. I knew she was aware of Finn's brother's condition, so I explained the situation, told her about the proposal, and that we were planning a very small wedding later in the year, just family and close friends. I told her we'd still be attending her big day, and I didn't want her to feel like I was taking anything away from her. I even invited her to be there with us. But the second I brought it up, her tone changed. She accused me of being jealous and said I was using a dying person as an excuse to get married first. Then she told me she'd hated me since the day I was born. That hit me hard. I was already emotionally overwhelmed with everything happening, and hearing my own sister say something so cruel broke me. I told her that she was the first person in our family I called to share the news, because I honestly thought just this once we could be happy for each other. But nope. She screamed at me over the phone, called me a jealous snob, and told me she'd never come to my wedding. Then she took it even further and shouted that she wished it had been Finn who died, not his brother, because then I wouldn't be able to get married. I was stunned. The amount of hatred in her voice after everything left me shaken and full of doubt. Was I wrong for moving forward with this? When I talked to my parents, they reassured me that I'd done nothing wrong. They told me they were proud of me and happy for both of us, and no matter what Susan said or did, they would be there to support me and attend the wedding. That meant more than I can explain. The next day, Finn and I had our wedding. It was exactly what we wanted, small, warm, and full of love. We took beautiful photos with his brother, and everyone there was genuinely happy for us. Later, when I posted some of the pictures online, my phone rang. It was Susan. For a second, I thought maybe she'd come around, maybe she was calling to apologize or say congratulations. But instead, she demanded that I delete the photos from social media. She said she didn't want our family or friends to know I got married before she did, and that once she was married, then I could post my pictures. I was done. That was the last straw. I told her no, that it was absurd for her to ask me to hide my own wedding. I said she could hate me all she wanted, but I wasn't going to keep trying to fix something that only I seemed to care about. Then she called me insufferable and officially uninvited me from her wedding. I told her that was fine by me, and to please just leave me alone. Finn and I are happy. That's all I want now. After our wedding, Finn and I had to head back home pretty quickly. His job was high stress, and he couldn't take any more time off. But even with all the pressure from work, he was the same caring, attentive man I had always known, only now as a husband. He made it a point to stay present in our relationship, no matter how demanding his schedule got. A few months later, Susan went ahead and married Tom, just like she'd planned. I didn't go, of course, she had uninvited me, but I still sent over a beautiful bouquet of flowers along with a heartfelt note to congratulate her. I saw her wedding photos online, and truly, I was happy for her. But only a few weeks after her big day, my mom called me with some jaw-dropping news. Susan had been cheating on Tom with a coworker, and he'd just found out. It blew up into a full-blown scandal, and the blame squarely fell on Susan. She tried to twist the narrative, saying she wanted an open marriage and Tom had refused, but it didn't hold water. He filed for an annulment not long after, saying he couldn't stay with someone who betrayed him like that. It was heartbreaking. Tom had honestly seemed like he was really in love with her. As if that wasn't heavy enough, around the same time, Finn's younger brother passed away. We immediately rushed to be with the family and attend the funeral. Finn was completely shattered. I'd never seen him that broken before, and something in him just changed. He wasn't the same man anymore. He stopped being loving or attentive, everything upset him. The smallest things would set him off, and he'd start yelling at everyone. I begged him to get help, to go to grief counseling, but nothing seemed to stick. He stopped showing up to work, and eventually, they let him go. From there, things only got worse. He'd spend his days in pajamas, glued to the TV or playing video games. Meanwhile, I was pulling 12-hour shifts as a paramedic, the only one bringing in a paycheck. I tried so hard to reach him, to talk to him, but he just brushed me off like I didn't matter. He refused to do the work it would have taken to pull himself out of that dark place. Then, I noticed something that didn't sit right. He started hiding his phone from me. That had never been a thing before. He'd constantly ask what time I'd be home, and even encourage me to stay out longer. He didn't talk to me, didn't ask about my day, didn't even pretend to care anymore. On top of that, he kept spending money like it grew on trees, going out, ordering things for himself, treating himself like he was living the good life. It was during this time that I found out I was 3 months pregnant. I hadn't had my period in a while, but I chalked it up to work stress. I never imagined I could actually be pregnant. When I told Finn, he was oddly emotionless. He didn't react with joy or concern, just kind of neutral. So I told him flat out, if he didn't want to be a father, he was free to walk away. He said he was happy about it and wanted to be there for me, for us. But pregnancy hit me hard. I had severe sickness, later diagnosed as hyperemesis gravidarum, and I was barely functioning. I couldn't work anymore, I barely left the house, and my social life vanished. My body felt like it was falling apart, and my parents had to step in to help with chores and meals because I physically couldn't do much. Finn had managed to find a new job by then and was supporting us financially, which I was grateful for. I promised him I'd go back to work after the baby, because I never liked being stuck at home anyway. Still, we fought often. He'd come home and call me lazy or dramatic for not keeping up the house, even though I was in constant pain. I felt like he saw me as a burden instead of a partner. Then came the day my water broke. I called Finn 12 times, 12, and he didn't answer. I texted him that I was in labor and headed to the hospital. My parents, without hesitation, drove me there. Lying in that hospital bed, writhing in pain and waiting to give birth, I got a notification on my phone. My mom, who was in the room holding my hand, picked it up, thinking it might be Finn. Her eyes went wide as she read the message. I asked her what it was, but she just shook her head, refusing to tell me. I begged her, pleaded, until she finally handed me the phone, her face filled with sadness. I opened the message, and my heart just dropped. It was a picture of Finn in bed with my sister. The message from Susan read, "Good luck being a single mother, because I've taken your husband." I sat there in stunned silence, unable to breathe, unable to process what I was seeing. I called Finn, and after the fourth ring, he picked up. He answered casually, like nothing was wrong, and asked why I was calling. I lost it. I screamed at him, asking what the hell he was doing in bed with my sister. He didn't even deny it. Said he'd fallen in love with Susan. That after his brother died, she reached out to him and helped him through it, and one thing led to another. They'd been having an affair behind my back for months. He said he was planning to wait until after I gave birth to tell me, but Susan didn't want to keep it a secret any longer. I knew exactly what that meant. She had timed it on purpose. She wanted to make it hurt even more. He tried to apologize, but I told him to shove his sorry. I told him I'd see him in court. Cheating was a line I never allowed anyone to cross. And here he was, the man I married, the father of my child, betraying me in the cruelest way possible. With my sister. My heart was crushed, completely shattered. But I refused to let this break me. I cried the entire way through my delivery, heartbroken and numb, but my baby girl, Aurora, came into the world healthy and strong. Despite the chaos around me, she was perfect. My mom sobbed happy tears when she saw her, and later my dad couldn't stop smiling and congratulating me. My friends and the rest of our family came to visit and surrounded me with love and support. I made sure they all knew the truth, that Susan had not only slept with my husband, but had also sent me that disgusting message while I was in labor. My parents were horrified. They called Susan and told her they were done with her. They said what she did was beyond forgiveness. My parents were so disgusted by what Susan had done that they told her flat out she should never refer to them as her parents again. They said they were ashamed to have brought her into this world. She tried to argue, insisting that she and Finn were in love, but my dad shut her down and told her she was officially cut out of the will. After that, we completely removed her from our lives. Blocked her on everything. Some of our cousins and relatives even sent her angry messages. I didn't lift a finger to stop them. She deserved to be called out for what she did. I also reached out to Finn's mom to let her know what her son had been up to. She was floored. She tried to talk to him, but honestly, it was too little, too late. I had made up my mind. I was divorcing his sorry self, and nothing was going to change that. I packed up everything I owned and moved out. My parents helped me shift into their house. Finn did try to approach me. He said he'd thought things through and after speaking with his mom, realized he'd made a terrible mistake. I didn't even look him in the eye. I told him he wasn't seeing Aurora until we went through the courts. I didn't trust him, not after what he and Susan pulled. Their behavior was twisted, and I wasn't about to expose my daughter to that mess. I met with a great lawyer and filed for divorce. Finn fought hard against paying alimony, but because he'd cheated while I was pregnant, the judge wasn't having any of it. As for custody, I was granted primary custody, and the court ruled that Finn could only see Aurora under supervision. My lawyer made a solid case, highlighting Finn's history of depression and his volatile behavior after his brother passed, both of which the judge agreed were red flags when it came to parenting. Now, 8 months post-divorce, Finn still sends child support regularly, but he barely ever visits our daughter. And honestly, I'm fine with that. He's tried apologizing to me a few times, but I ignore him. I've gone back to work full-time to support Aurora, and my mom watches her while I'm gone. The second I get home, I take over. Aurora has been my lifeline. She's the reason I keep pushing forward. Every single day, I look at her and know I have to keep going. Then, just yesterday, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I picked up, I froze. It was Susan. I had blocked her on everything months ago, so I was shocked to hear her voice. She begged me not to hang up and explained she was calling from a friend's phone because she'd been trying to reach me for months. I told her right away that I had nothing to say and asked her not to contact me again. But she jumped in before I could hang up and said something that floored me. She was pregnant. With Finn's child. I felt a wave of disbelief, anger, and just pure exhaustion wash over me. I asked her to explain, and she went on to say how I should forgive her now because she was about to become a mother. She said we should move on, for the sake of her child. I told her, without hesitation, that I didn't care if she was pregnant or not. I wanted absolutely nothing to do with her. That's when she lost it. She started yelling, blaming me for the fact that our parents and the rest of the family had cut her off. She cried about how Finn was denying the pregnancy and pressuring her to get an abortion, and how she was all alone. I laughed, yes, I actually laughed. I reminded her how she chose to sleep with my husband while I was pregnant, and then had the audacity to send me that awful photo the moment I went into labor. I told her she made her choices, and now she could lie in the mess she created. I ended the call by telling her to enjoy motherhood alone because she was getting no sympathy from me. After the call, I opened up to a few close friends, and the reactions were mixed. Some said I was doing the right thing by cutting her off completely. Others felt I was being too harsh, considering I knew how lonely and hard pregnancy could be. But honestly, this wasn't just about a pregnancy. This was about a lifetime of betrayal and cruelty. So now, here I am, sharing it all with Reddit, hoping for some neutral perspective. Am I the hole for refusing to forgive my sister after she slept with my husband and wrecked my life? Update 1. Thank you all for the overwhelming responses, it's given me so much to think about. I want to make one thing very clear, I blame both Susan and Finn for what they did. I'm not letting either of them off the hook. But what hurt most is that Susan was my sister. I had always hoped to have a big sister I could look up to, someone who had my back. Instead, I got a bully who competed with me for everything. That betrayal will never be forgiven, no matter what anyone says. That said, I've told my parents they are free to have a relationship with Susan and her child if they want. I won't stand in their way. Update 2. It's been about 3 months since my last post, and a few of you asked for an update. Thank you for caring. Aurora is doing great, by the way. She's sweet, funny, and keeps me going every day. I had a long talk with my parents and told them that Susan was pregnant. They were shocked, just like I was. I explained that Finn was the father but wanted nothing to do with her or the baby. My mom cried. It was hard watching her feel that pain, knowing her daughter had done something so unforgivable. My dad, on the other hand, picked up the phone and called Finn. They had a real, man-to-man conversation. Finn admitted everything. He said that after the divorce, Susan lost interest in him. She started seeing other men and moved on quickly. He was hurt and eventually stopped chasing her. Then she reached out again weeks later to say she was pregnant. He told her plainly that he wasn't interested in getting back together and didn't want another child, especially not with her. Apparently, she told him she wanted to be a mom, just like me, and he should get ready. Finn tried to talk her out of it, warned her that parenting was hard, but Susan was stubborn. She told him if I could handle it, so could she. Finn said he'd pay child support but wanted no relationship with the child. After hearing all this, my parents realized Susan hadn't changed one bit. She was still trying to compete with me, this time by having a baby. Honestly, I'm exhausted by the whole thing. I don't want Aurora growing up in a toxic mess like I did, so I've chosen to distance myself and protect her peace. I told my parents again, they're welcome to talk to Susan and be part of her child's life if they want. But surprisingly, they weren't too eager. They've been burned too many times. Meanwhile, I've started looking for a place of my own so Aurora and I can have a fresh start. Update 3. Hi again, Reddit. It's been 5 months since I last checked in. Thank you to everyone who's been following my story and offering encouragement. Aurora and I have officially moved into our own home. I hired a reliable babysitter to help out while I work, and it feels good to have a space that's just ours. Being a single parent is tough, but I'm managing one day at a time. Susan gave birth to her son. My mom was the only one who went to see her. My dad stayed true to his word, he wanted nothing to do with her. Mom told Susan just how disappointed the family was and made it clear that the only reason she came was for the sake of the baby, not for her. Susan apparently begged for forgiveness, but my mom stood firm, told her their relationship was over. I know that must have been painful for my mom, but Susan brought this on herself. As for my parents, they still show up for me and Aurora in every way they can. They visit us on weekends, help out when they can, and always remind me how proud they are of how far I've come. Finn still sends child support for both kids now. And let me tell you, that's a tough pill to swallow. I've cried many nights, alone in my bed, still hurting from the betrayal. But I'm in therapy, working on healing, and slowly bit by bit, I'm getting there.